Nobody expected this to happen. Not after everything that's already come out. Not after the clips, the reactions, the chaos. But what just surfaced? It changes everything. Because according to multiple insiders, King Harris didn't just sit back and stay silent this time. He reached out. Directly. And not in anger. Not in defiance. But in desperation. Yeah, you heard that right. Desperation. Because sources are now claiming that behind the scenes, King Harris made a move nobody saw coming. He allegedly contacted 50 Cent, pleading with him to stop the rollout of the documentary before things go too far. And when I say too far, I mean to the point where there's no coming back. Because whatever is still in that documentary, whatever footage hasn't been released yet, people are saying it's way worse than what we've already seen. Now, think about that for a second. We've already seen clips that shook the internet, divided the industry, and had people questioning everything about T.I.'s image and family dynamic. So if King Harris himself is stepping in, begging for it to stop, then what exactly is left in those unreleased scenes? And why is he so afraid of them getting out? Because here's where things get even more intense. According to whispers that started spreading late last night, this wasn't just a simple message. It wasn't just, hey, chill. It was emotional, urgent. The kind of message that comes from someone who feels like everything around them is about to collapse. One insider even claimed he wasn't trying to argue, he was trying to prevent something. Prevent what? That's the question nobody can answer right now. But the fact that he even made that move tells you everything you need to know about how serious this situation has become. And here's the part that's making people uneasy. Because while King Harris is allegedly trying to stop this from going further, 50 Cent hasn't slowed down at all. In fact, some are saying he's moving even more aggressively now. More clips, more hints, more pressure. And that right there is what's turning this from drama into something way bigger. Because now it's not just about what's been exposed, it's about what's still coming. And whether or not anyone can stop it before it destroys everything. So the real question is, what did King Harris see that made him react like this? And why does it feel like we're on the edge of a reveal that could change everything we thought we knew? Because trust me, this situation is about to get a whole lot deeper. To understand why King Harris would allegedly reach out like that, why he would go from silence to desperation, you have to understand the pressure he's been under this entire time. Because this isn't just about a documentary, this isn't just about clips going viral. This is about a young man growing up in front of the entire world, while his family's image is being pulled apart piece by piece. Now let's take it back for a second. Because King Harris didn't just become part of the spotlight overnight, he was born into it. From the very beginning, his life has been documented. TV shows, interviews, social media, public appearances, everything. People watched him grow up, watched him change, watched him go from being seen as T.I.'s son to trying to become his own person. And that transition wasn't smooth, because every time he tried to step out and define himself, there were expectations from fans, from critics, from his own family. And those expectations were heavy. Because when your father is someone like T.I., a figure known for control, structure, and influence, there's a certain image people expect you to follow. But King? He didn't always move like that. He spoke his mind. He reacted emotionally. He had moments that went viral for all the wrong reasons. Clips where he clashed with authority, moments where it felt like he was pushing back, not just against the public, but against the system his father built around him. And every time something happened, the internet got louder, more judgmental, more invasive. And that kind of pressure builds up. Now add this situation on top of it. A documentary, not just any documentary, one that allegedly digs into personal moments, family dynamics, private interactions that were never meant for public consumption. And suddenly, this isn't just pressure anymore, this is exposure. Because according to multiple insiders, the biggest fear right now isn't just what's already been shown, it's what hasn't been shown yet. Because the clips we've seen, as intense as they are, people are saying they're just pieces, fragments, edited moments pulled from something much bigger. And if that's true, then there's a full story sitting somewhere, unreleased, waiting. Now imagine being King Harris in that position. Knowing there's content out there, content that could shape how the entire world sees you, your father, your family, and you have no control over it. That's not just stressful, that's terrifying. And that's why this alleged message to 50 Cent hits so differently. Because this isn't someone reacting publicly for attention, this is someone trying to stop something behind the scenes, trying to contain something before it goes too far. Now let's bring 50 Cent back into the picture. Because his role in all of this is what makes it even more complicated. Like we said before, 50 doesn't move randomly. He doesn't just drop content for no reason. Everything he does has a purpose, a strategy, and more importantly, timing. Because think about when all of this started gaining traction. Right when the spotlight on T.I. and his family was already getting intense. Right when conversations were already building online. Right when people were already paying attention. That's when this documentary starts surfacing. That's not coincidence. That's positioning. And that's what makes people believe this is something bigger than just entertainment. Because if you're 50 Cent and you have access to content like this, you don't just drop it all at once. You release it in pieces. You build momentum. You control the narrative. You keep people watching. And that's exactly what it feels like is happening right now. Now here's where things get even more uncomfortable in Nastic. Because some insiders are claiming that the footage in this documentary wasn't all originally meant for public release. Yeah, let that sink in. There are whispers that certain clips may have come from older recordings, private archives, even content that was originally filmed for something completely different. And if that's true, then this situation becomes even more serious. Because now it's not just about what's being shown, it's about how it was obtained, how it was used, and whether or not it was ever meant to be seen. And that's exactly why the industry reaction has been so divided. Because some people are looking at this like, this is exposure, this is truth. But others are looking at it like, this is crossing a line. And King Harris, he's stuck right in the middle of that. Because on one side, you have a powerful figure like 50 Cent controlling the release of this content. And on the other side, you have his own family, his own identity, his own life, being shaped by how that content is presented. And that's a position nobody wants to be in. Now think about what that does to someone mentally. Every clip that drops, every reaction video, every comment, every debate, it's all about you, your life, your family, your image, and you have no control over any of it. So when you hear that he allegedly reached out, that he tried to stop this from going further, it doesn't sound crazy anymore. It sounds necessary. Because at a certain point, this stops being entertainment and starts becoming something that can actually damage people. And that's exactly where this situation is right now, on the edge, between content and consequence, between exposure and destruction. And the craziest part? We still don't know what's coming next. Because if what we've seen already caused this much chaos, then what's left in that documentary? What's still hidden? What hasn't been released yet? Because if King Harris is reacting like this behind the scenes, then whatever's coming next might be even bigger than anything we've seen so far. And that's where things take a turn. Because what happens next pushes the situation into a whole new level of drama. And this right here is where everything completely collides. Because up until this point, everything felt like it was happening around King Harris. Clips dropping, people reacting, narratives being built. But now, he's in it, directly. And according to multiple insiders, in the moment he allegedly reached out to 50 Cent, That's when the situation shifted from public chaos to private confrontation. Because this wasn't just a message. This wasn't just a quick, yo, chill. Sources are claiming it was a full conversation. Emotional, tense, uncomfortable. The kind of exchange where you can feel the pressure through every word. Now, obviously, we don't have the exact messages. But people who claim to know about it are saying one thing over and over again. King wasn't talking like someone trying to argue. He was talking like someone trying to stop something before it got worse. And that right there says everything. Because when someone moves like that, it usually means they know what's coming next. Now here's where the major conflict kicks in. Because according to these same sources, 50 Cent didn't respond the way people expected. He didn't back down. He didn't slow the rollout. He didn't say, okay. Instead, he allegedly stayed calm, cold, unbothered. And that response made everything worse. Because now you've got one side trying to contain the situation, and another side that seems completely locked in on pushing it forward. And that's where the tension exploded. Because if King Harris is asking for this to stop, and it's not stopping, then what happens next? Now here's where the first twist hits. Because shortly after this alleged interaction, a new clip started circulating. And this one felt different, heavier, more serious. Because according to multiple reposts, this clip allegedly shows a moment involving King Harris that had never been seen before. A moment that people are calling the most revealing yet. Now we're not talking about something small. We're talking about a clip that immediately changed the tone of the entire conversation. Because instead of just sparking debate, it sparked concern. People weren't just reacting. They were uncomfortable. Comments like, "This don't feel right. Why is this even out there? This going too far now," started flooding every platform, and that's when people started connecting the dots. Because the timing was way too perfect. Right after King allegedly reaches out, right after he tries to stop things, a new clip drops? That's not coincidence, at least that's what people are saying. And that's where the situation gets even more intense. Because now it feels like a response, like a message, like something being pushed forward despite everything happening behind the scenes. And that's when the internet really started asking, is this personal now? Because before, it felt like content, like storytelling, like controversy. But now, it feels targeted. And that changes everything. Because once something becomes personal, there's no going back. Now, here's where things get even more complicated. Because while all of this is happening publicly, behind the scenes, the pressure is building. Fast. According to insiders, people close to T.I. are not happy. At all. There are whispers of frustration, anger, even talks of stepping in more aggressively to stop what's happening. Now, what that means exactly, nobody knows. But the energy is shifting. Because this isn't just about clips anymore. It's about reputation, legacy, family. And when those things are involved, people move differently. Now add King Harris into the middle of all this. A young man already under pressure, already dealing with public scrutiny. Now watching his own life being turned into content in real time. That's a breaking point, and people are starting to feel that. Because the conversation online is changing. It's not just about what's in the documentary anymore. It's about whether or not it should be happening at all. And that's where the division gets even deeper. Some people are still saying truth is truth. Let it come out. But others are pushing back hard. This ain't truth. This is exploitation. This going too far now. Somebody need to stop this. And that shift is what makes this moment so critical. Because now the pressure isn't just on T.I., it's not just on King Harris, it's on 50 Cent too. Because people are watching how far he's willing to take this, and whether or not he's going to keep pushing, or finally pull back. But if you think that's where the twist ends, it's not. Because something else happened. something that made the situation even more unpredictable. Because according to a viral post that started circulating late at night, there might be more footage. Yeah, more. Not just what we've seen, not just what's been leaked, but additional content that hasn't been released yet. And according to that post, it's the stuff they really don't want out. Now, whether that's true or not doesn't even matter, because the idea alone was enough to shake everything. Because if there's more content out there, if there's more moments waiting to drop, then this situation isn't slowing down, it's escalating, and fast. So now the real question is, what exactly is 50 Cent sitting on? And how far is he willing to go with it? Because if King Harris is already trying to stop things behind the scenes, and it's not working, then whatever's coming next might be even bigger than anything we've seen so far. And trust me, this situation is nowhere near done. And just when people thought things couldn't get any more intense, that's when everything completely escalated. Because what happened next didn't just add pressure, it multiplied it. Overnight, the situation went from viral drama to full-blown industry crisis. Because according to multiple online reports, like another wave of documentary clips started surfacing, and these weren't small, vague snippets anymore. These were longer, clearer, and way more revealing. Now, the moment those clips hit the internet, everything changed again. Because people weren't just reacting with curiosity anymore. They were reacting with discomfort. Serious discomfort. Comments started flooding in like, "This ain't even entertaining no more." "Why this feels so personal?" "Something about this don't sit right." And that shift was huge. Because when the audience stops being entertained and starts feeling uneasy, that's when things cross into dangerous territory. Now here's where the shocking reveal comes in. Because as people started analyzing these new clips, they noticed something that nobody had pointed out before. A pattern. Not just random moments, but specific scenes that seemed to build toward a certain narrative. Moments of tension, moments of conflict, moments where things didn't look as controlled as they once did. And when those moments were put together, they told a story. A story that didn't match the image people had been used to seeing. Now think about that. If a documentary is built to show a certain side of things, and the audience starts realizing that, then the conversation changes completely. Because now it's not just, what are we watching? It's, why are we being shown this version of it? And that question blew up instantly. One viral comment said, "This ain't just footage. This is editing with a purpose." And just like that, the entire narrative shifted again. Because now people weren't just debating the content. They were debating the intention behind it. But here's where things got even more intense. Because while all of this was happening publicly, behind the scenes, the pressure reached another level. According to insiders, T.I.'s camp allegedly started exploring more aggressive options. Not just statements, not just reactions, but actual moves, legal, strategic, calculated. Because at this point, this isn't just about public opinion anymore, it's about control, and whether or not they can take it back. Now, what exactly those moves are, nobody knows yet. But the fact that they're even being discussed tells you how serious this situation has become. Because when lawyers get involved, things change fast. And then, just when it felt like the situation couldn't get any more unpredictable, another twist dropped. And this one caught everybody off guard. Because a post started circulating, quickly, then disappearing just as fast, that claimed King Harris didn't just reach out once, he reached out again. Yeah, again. But this time, it wasn't just a request. According to the post, it was more emotional, more urgent, more intense than before. The message allegedly said something along the lines of, "This not just affecting me, this about my whole family. You gotta stop this before it go too far." Now again, this is unconfirmed. But the way it spread, the way people reacted to it, made it feel real enough. Because suddenly the situation wasn't just about leaks anymore. It was about consequences. Real ones. Because if this keeps going, if more clips keep dropping, if more narratives keep being pushed, then this doesn't just stay online. It affects real life, real relationships, real reputations. And that's exactly why the tension is so high right now. Because nobody knows where the line is anymore. And whether or not it's already been crossed. Now here's the final part of this escalation. Because just when everything felt like it was about to settle, another rumor started spreading. Not confirmed, not verified, but powerful enough to shake everything again. A claim that there's one final piece of footage. A clip that hasn't been released yet, but is being held back. Why? Because according to those whispers, it changes everything. Now we've heard that before, right? But this time, it feels different. Because of the way people are reacting. The way insiders are talking. The way the situation keeps escalating. It doesn't feel like hype anymore. It feels like something is actually being held back. Something big. So now the question is, what is in that final clip? Why hasn't it been released yet? And most importantly, what happens if it does? Because if what we've already seen caused this much chaos, then whatever is still hidden might not just shake the internet, it might break everything, and trust me. At this point, that doesn't feel impossible. And this is where everything completely erupted. Because once those new clips dropped, the reaction didn't just grow, it multiplied. We're talking about every corner of the internet lighting up at the same time. Twitter, X completely flooded with debates. TikTok filled with emotional reactions and breakdowns. YouTube channels dropping analysis videos within minutes, and every single platform asking the same thing. Has this gone too far? Now at first, people were still divided. But this time, the tone felt different. Heavier, more serious, because the content itself felt different. Less like entertainment, more like exposure. And that shift changed how people reacted. On one side, you still had those defending 50 Cent, saying things like, "Y'all only mad because it's uncomfortable. Truth ain't supposed to feel good. If it's real, it deserves to be seen." And those comments still got support, still went viral. But on the other side, the pushback got way stronger. This ain't exposing. This is exploiting. Why is a family being turned into content like this? This is getting weird now. And those reactions started dominating the conversation. Because now it wasn't just about curiosity anymore, and it was about boundaries and whether or not they had been crossed. But here's where things got even more intense. Because the industry started reacting louder than ever. No more subtle posts, no more cryptic captions. Now it was direct. One rapper went live and said, "I don't care what nobody say. That ain't right. That ain't how you handle something like that." Another artist responded hours later, "Y'all keep saying it ain't right, but nobody explaining what's wrong with it. If it's truth, let it be truth." And just like that, the industry split again. But this time, the emotions were higher. Because now it wasn't just debate. It was frustration. Because people weren't just disagreeing. They were questioning the entire situation. Then came one of the most viral reactions of all. Because a well-known media personality dropped a statement that hit hard. This whole situation feels like something we're not supposed to be seeing. And that's exactly why it's blowing up. Now that line changed everything. Because it tapped into something deeper. The idea that this content might not have been meant for public consumption. And once that thought hit the timeline, everything shifted again. Because now people weren't just watching, they were questioning why they were watching. And that's a dangerous place for any situation to be. Meanwhile, TikTok detectives went into full investigation mode, breaking down clips, comparing timelines, analyzing edits, trying to figure out what was real, what was missing, and what might have been intentionally left out. And some of those breakdowns went viral. Millions of views, people saying, "Wait, this clip cuts off right before something important." They showing one side of this don't feel complete. And just like that, the narrative got even more complicated, because now it wasn't just about content, it was about context, and whether or not we were seeing the full story. But in the middle of all this chaos, one thing remained the same: silence. No response from T.I., no statement from King Harris, no explanation from 50 Cent. And that silence started driving people crazy, because now the internet wasn't just reacting, it was demanding answers. Comments everywhere. Speak on it. Say something. Clear this up. But nothing came. And that made everything feel even more intense. Because when something this big happens, and nobody says anything, that usually means one thing: there's more going on behind the scenes. And then, just when the situation couldn't get any more divided, one final wave of reactions pushed everything even further. Because a few high-profile voices, people who rarely speak on situations like this, started hinting that this might not end quietly. One viral comment said, "This ain't just drama. This is gonna have real consequences." Consequences. That word hit different this time, because now people weren't just watching for entertainment. They were watching for impact, for fallout, for what happens next. Will T.I. respond? Will King Harris speak? Will 50 Cent keep pushing? Or will something happen behind the scenes that changes everything again? Because at this point, nobody knows. And that's exactly why this situation feels so intense, so unpredictable, so far from over, because when the entire culture is watching and nobody has the full story, that's when things usually take the craziest turn, and just when it felt like the situation had already reached its absolute limit. When the clips, the reactions, the pressure, and the silence had already pushed everything to the edge. That's when the final twist hit, because late that night, something surfaced that changed the entire tone again. Not a clip, not a statement, but a leaked screenshot. Yeah, a screenshot. Getting allegedly showing a private exchange, one that people are now claiming could be connected to King Harris's attempt to stop everything. Now, before we even get into what it said, understand this. Nobody has confirmed if it's real. But the way it spread, the way people reacted to it, it didn't matter, because the message itself was enough to shake everything. According to multiple reposts, the screenshot allegedly showed someone, believed to be King Harris, sending a message that read, "This not just content to me. This my real life. If more of this come out, it's gonna mess up everything around me." Now, whether that's actually him or not, we don't know. But the emotion in that message felt real. Too real. And that's what made it hit so hard. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about clips anymore. It wasn't just about a documentary. It was about consequences. Real ones. Because if that message reflects even a fraction of what's actually happening behind the scenes, then this situation is way deeper than anyone thought. And here's where things get even more intense. Because shortly after that screenshot started going viral, another rumor began spreading, a claim that 50 Cent had seen the message and chose not to respond. Yeah, let that sink in. If that's true, then this isn't just a situation of miscommunication. This is a standoff. Because now you have one side trying to stop the situation, and another side that's not slowing down at all. And that kind of tension doesn't just disappear, it builds. Now here's where the cliffhanger gets even heavier, because alongside that screenshot, another piece of information started circulating, quietly at first, then louder, then everywhere, a claim that the next part of the documentary might already be scheduled. Yeah, scheduled. meaning this whole situation isn't random, it's planned. And if that's true, then everything we're seeing right now, the clips, the reactions, the silence, it's all part of something bigger. Something still unfolding, and that's what makes this moment so intense. Because now we're not just watching what happened, we're watching what's about to happen. And the scariest part? Nobody knows what's in that next drop. Because if what we've already seen caused this much chaos, then whatever comes next might not just shake the internet, it might completely flip the narrative and leave people looking at the situation in a totally different way. So now the real question is, what's in that next part? Is there really more footage that hasn't been released yet? And if it drops, will it clear everything up or make this situation even worse? Because one thing is clear, this story is not finished, not even close. And the next move might be the one that changes everything. Now, after everything you just heard, the alleged messages, the reactions, the tension, the possibility of even more footage dropping, I need you to really think about this. Because this situation, it's not simple, it's not clear, and it's definitely not over. So let me ask you directly, what do you think is really happening behind the scenes? Do you believe King Harris actually reached out, trying to stop this? Or do you think that's just another rumor being pushed to add more drama to the situation? And what about 50 Cent? Do you think he's exposing the truth? Or do you think he's taking things too far just to keep the attention going? Because let's be real, there's a line between storytelling and crossing boundaries. And right now, nobody can agree on where that line is. Some people are saying, if it's real, it deserves to be shown. Others are saying, this is somebody's life, not content. So where do you stand? Go down in the comments right now and say it clearly. Are you rocking with 50 on this? Or do you think he should stop before it gets worse? And don't just give a short answer. Break it down. Because this is one of those situations where your opinion actually matters. The conversation is split, the energy is tense, and everybody is watching what happens next. Also, if you made it this far, that means you're locked in. And trust me, you do not want to miss the next update. Because if that next part of the documentary drops, I finally responds, or King Harris breaks his silence. This whole situation could flip again, and we're going to be right here, breaking it all down the second it happens. So hit that like button right now to keep this video moving. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything. Because something about this situation still feels unfinished, like we're in the middle of something way bigger than what we've seen so far. And the next twist might be the one that changes everything. So stay ready, stay watching, and I'll catch you in the next update.